Hello, craft beer friends, and welcome to Season 11, Episode 14 of Tap to Craft Podcast. I am Denny Luce, coming to you from Boise, Idaho, and my partner in craft, the dog whisperer, and my favorite Florida man from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Kris McKenzie. How you doing tonight, Kris? And while you're at it, why don't you introduce our guest tonight?
I always love getting the pleasure. I get to introduce our guest. I'm doing great this evening. It's a cold, chilly evening here in Florida. We're expecting snow,
Snow
more
in Tampa?
not in Tampa, but like way north
Okay.
of. But yeah, it's cold. I had to wear pants today.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, want to give a warm welcome to the guys over at Tractor Brewing Company out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We've got Jeremy Kinter and TJ Frederich. I appreciate you guys coming on with us. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing well. It's exceptionally cold here.
Really?
Feels like about 20 degrees. I
Wow.
think for here, even here, it's cold. But other than that, doing fantastic.
Great. Oh no.
TJ,
Yeah,
what do you think about the
doing
weather?
doing great here. Actually had to walk to my car a little bit ago to get my car charger, and it is absolutely frigid. So that's probably the last time I'll step outside tonight.
Smart.
Okay,
Smart.
well, hopefully you guys don't need any ice scrapers to scrape the windows or anything to get
We
into.
don't have those, so we're just going to use discarded tractor beer cans
Oh,
from the back of my truck. Just cut one of those up, and we'll do just fine.
I
oh,
appreciate the MacGyver. There's like ice
yeah.
scrapers. Don't need no stinking ice scrapers. All right.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's cold everywhere because yeah, it was 15. I mean, I'm not saying 15 degrees is cold, but it was pretty chilly this morning here in Boise, and no snow, which is good. I'm glad there's no snow and no ice. But I feel for you guys down south because you're not used to this cold front coming in. So stay warm, drink plenty of tractor beer, and keep your blood well insulated. But I'm glad you guys were able to join us today. I'm looking forward to chatting with you, learning about tractor brewing, learning about your guys' craft beer journeys, and about the beer you guys are brewing down south. So let's get started this show. But before we get too far in, we always want to let anyone new listening to Tap to Craft podcast know what we're all about. We are an educational podcast focused around celebrating all things craft beer because we want to help you, our listener, along in your craft beer journey and adventure. And you're listening to episode 274, recorded on Monday, January 20th, 2025. We are live on Facebook. If you would like to join us during a recording session, you can do that on the Monday prior to release. And in this episode, we are going to learn all about Jeremy and TJ's personal craft beer journeys, as well as learn about Tractor Brewing. And of course, you can count on having some great beer conversation. So, Jeremy and TJ, we're going to get right into the questions and start learning about your personal craft beer journeys. So, we'll go ahead and ask you a couple questions. You guys can bounce back and forth and answer them the best you can. And so, as I mentioned, uh, we're all about learning about people's origin stories on how they got started in craft beer journey and how that journey has transpired over the years. So, how did you guys discover craft beer, and what was your gateway beer?
I'm gonna let TJ go first with this one.
Okay, all right,
Oh man,
TJ.
I thought you were going first.
Okay,
So
no, I can go. No, I'll go first. No,
no,
I'll give you
I'll
some
go. I'll
time.
go. I'll go.
Okay,
It's fine.
okay.
So really, my craft beer journey started. I'm from a very small town in southeastern New Mexico,
Okay.
Roswell, New Mexico. You guys might have heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Once. Yeah.
So so grew up there, and I kept sort of hearing about this craft beer scene, but it hadn't really hit Roswell. Kind of the most craft beer beer that we had come across in Roswell when I was growing up in like 2004, 2005 was Shiner Bock.
Oh
So
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I would say Shiner Bock was sort of my first introduction into craft beer.
Okay.
And drinking that, I was like, this is a completely different beer than I'm used to drinking. So, um, I ended up investing in a home brew kit, and started making beer out of that. It was terrible beer. But I just kind of kept doing it. It was something that was fun. Friends would come over to the house. We would drink some old beers, or we would bring some beer over, and it just kind of became this thing where me and my friends would hang out and drink beer, and we would try to make beer. And every third or fourth batch would turn out really, really good. And so it just kind of became a hobby. And over the course of, probably 10 to 12 years of me home brewing, I just got a lot better at it. My background is actually in restaurant management. I was a restaurant manager and general manager for Red Lobster. And so on my days off, when my restaurant became a training restaurant for other managers, it was kind of what I did to avoid rushing into work to put out the fires. Because if you're going to commit yourself to an all grain brew, home brewing,
Whoa.
you're in it for 8 to 10 hours, depending on, how quickly everything comes together. So started doing that about every other week by myself, and slowly more people kept showing up to my house and drinking my beer. And then friends were like, "Hey, can you make this beer for my wedding, or
Mm. Oh
for a
yeah.
graduation or something like that?" And I was like, there's still a part of me, with that imposter syndrome that was like, "Oh, okay,
Hmm.
they just want it because it's free. Like, hey, $30, they get a sixth of beer out of it." And then, yeah, it just kind of went through that. We ended up having a really bad snowstorm called Goliath in Clovis, New Mexico, where I was the general manager of a Red Lobster. And I kind of decided at that point I didn't want to be a restaurant manager anymore, or a general manager. And coincidentally, about 2 weeks after that storm hit, Central New Mexico Community College here started up a brewing education program, which was a 2-year program. And my wife knew I wasn't happy, so I kind of hit her with that. And she's like, "If it's going to make you happy, let's move to Albuquerque and
Hmm.
go do it."
Oh,
So jumped in on that. Was lucky enough to meet one of our co-owners, Sky DeVore. She was the teacher in one of my classes, and we just kind of hit it off. So when I decided I wanted to actually get into the brewing industry, she was the first person I hit up, as far as like, "Hey, do you have any open brewing positions or anything that I can do in the back of the house?" And she was like, "We're pretty full in the back of the house, but I know you have management experience. Why don't you come help manage our tap rooms?" So jumped in and did that for about a year until something opened up in the back of the house. Um, Started out washing kegs and doing deliveries, and doing all the grunt work, kegging. Slowly worked up to transfers and all this other stuff. And it just kind of happened that everyone ahead of me slowly left, and within about 3 or 4 years I was the head brewer. So that was kind of how I got involved in all this and ended up in the position I'm in now. So
okay. So it all started from just experimenting with craft beer, brewing your own, and making mistakes, and eventually not making mistakes and brewing some beers people really enjoyed. So that's good.
right.
All
All
right,
right.
Jeremy,
How
you're
about you,
up
Jeremy?
now.
All right. Well, man, actually going back to the first beer that introduced me to craft beer. So I would say, does Samuel Adams cherry wheat count? No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
It does. That was one of
I
it
my
did.
does count.
starts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Are you
in
serious?
the
Oh
sampling
yeah.
pack. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the first night I had that, I loved it so much. I think I drank about a 6 pack, and then I ended up throwing it out. And
Mm.
Exactly.
it was all red too.
Yeah.
So I couldn't drink it after that. But so I grew up down south, southern New Mexico, in a small town like TJ, in Silver City, and we actually got and me and my buddies used to drink. Well, I used to drink one, maybe two of the Torpedo Sierra Nevadas.
Hmm.
I remember that, or the Red Hook ESBs,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and hadn't really experienced. That's like a national craft experience, but Silver City had a brewery and they did an amber ale that was really good, but it didn't really. None of these things really introduced me or like really opened my eyes to what craft beer actually was And it wasn't until I moved here to Albuquerque, and it was about, I want to say 2010,
Oh.
2011, and I had a Marble Brewing Red here. I know, not sure if you guys are familiar with Marble,
Mm-mm.
but it was a hoppy red ale.
Mhm.
And it really opened my eyes to what good craft beer could taste like, and especially locally. And so it was at the start of the blossoming craft beer scene here
Mhm.
in the real, start of it. I mean, there
Mhm.
have been craft beer around, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. And so, yeah, it was that Marble experience that really opened my eyes to what local craft beer could taste like. And then in 2012, Tractor opened up a location in what is Nob Hill, the Nob Hill neighborhood. Um, and that wasn't too far away from me. And me and my friends started going there quite frequently, so much so that we refer to it as the office. And my love for craft beer blossomed even more, but there were great breweries just opening up all over the place. And checking out La Cumbre was one of the big ones here too, and Santa Fe Brewing Company, and who else was there at that time around Marble? Um, yeah, so those were like the big ones I was experiencing. We had this like little remember Kelly Brewing Company, Kelly's TJ, and
Oh yeah.
they kind of made some shitty craft beer, but they had like good food to go along with it and a great patio. And it was like next to the college. So it was bustling. It was like the first, like I would say, like more of a like mainer stream local craft experience. But yeah, I started going to Tractor then and became a regular with a couple of friends of mine. And we opened up, we started an arts promotion company called Humbird in New Mexico. We teamed up with Sky and David, who's our other owner, and we did an event called 24 Hours of Art. And we did it for a
Mm.
couple years, and it was very successful. We did a few events that made Tractor some money. And in about 20, I want to say 2015 is when position opened up at Tractor as a marketing assistant. So I jumped on under events and marketing director, and then about 6 months later, I took over as that director because that person left. And yeah, been with Tractor ever since. And for the past about, I want to say 3 or 4 years, I've also been doing operations management, doing all the front of house of operations. And COVID was a weird time, so you had to step up and fill in where need be, and that's what I did. And they've allowed me to grow as that person. So now doing all the front of house operations, marketing, events, all that fun stuff. It's been a wild journey, and yeah, as I'm sure you guys are aware, I saw that Kris was the one that hit you guys up to start a Facebook page
Yeah.
a few years ago. So, yeah, know how important it is to develop your audience, on social media, especially now with those new platforms like TikTok I was talking about. I sounded so old right there. I'm sorry.
It's
I
on the
just
ticking talk. It's yeah.
Those TikToks.
Yeah.
Oh, you
All
guys
the
mean
kids are
Red
on it.
Note, right? The Red Note is
Oh,
what I'm using right
Right.
now. So, I've gotten a lot of weird spams as of late, but it's
I
okay.
bet.
But anyways, yeah. So, and it's been an amazing craft beer journey. And now, even this year, I joined the New Mexico Brewers Guild as a board member
Mm.
just a couple months ago. So it's been interesting now from that perspective, and then from the distilling perspective as well to watch the scene grow here in New Mexico. It's incredible.
So yeah, it's great that you both are from. That's one of the questions we had later on in the show. As I was curious if you were both from New Mexico, and now we find out you both are from small towns in New Mexico. So I think your entry into the craft beer, both of you started off with beers that were outside of the state, but then slowly gravitated to beers that were within the state because you realized that, wow, these there's some beers that taste good, different than what you're used to with the massive industrial lagers that were being, everyone was drinking. And then it sounds like you guys, okay, started off Shiner Bock. Yeah, when I traveled to Texas, that's all I drank was Shiner Bock back in the early 2000, late 90s, early 2000s, because that was like the best beer they had in the area. And then of course Sierra Nevada, who doesn't drinks either the Pale or the Torpedo as a beer that regionally can make it into your area and show you that, wow, some beer can have flavor. So it's great that you guys were introduced to craft beer from outside of the area, but then slowly the New Mexico region started to, you started seeking out beers there, because you're right, Jeremy, I think 2010, that is like when craft beer started to make a surge and started growing rapidly. Even before, just a year before that, you still wouldn't see very many beers, on tap or in the supermarket that you could purchase that wasn't, domestic industrial beers. So I'll admit that being from outside the area. Now, I'll give you some insider news. Back in 1980, I lived in Albuquerque for a year.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I'm sure it was
Basically
a lot different back.
native.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot
I was gonna
different
say
now.
nothing's changed since then. You're fine.
Yeah.
You'd absolutely recognize it when you move back.
Yeah. I'm sure I won't. I mean, people ask me, well, where'd you go to school? Like, I don't have a clue, because I was, 11 years old. I don't remember, when, what anything back then. I just knew that I went to school and I did these things, but we did live on the outskirts of towns, and I'm sure that whole area is probably filled in now with, housing and commercial stuff. But I imagine that, being outside of the New Mexico area, we don't hear of a lot of craft beer, coming out of New Mexico that's like, like big beer, that's like award-winning beers. I mean, recently there has been some that you do hear, see from New Mexico. And in fact, we're going to talk a little bit later about you guys actually being, recognized for, a beer in the Great American Beer Festival. But it's great that even in New Mexico, in Tractor Brewing, again, we're going to talk more about Tractor a little bit later, but you guys have been around for quite a while, and it's interesting that I'm sure within the region in New Mexico, it's a well-known brand, but I think it's good for us to talk to you guys now and get this brand out to more, because you guys have been around for a while, and honestly, I hadn't heard of Tractor before you guys, reached out to us to come on the show, and I'm really excited to learn about New Mexico craft beer and Tractor Brewing. So I appreciate you guys sharing that.
Most definitely. Yeah. This is just a random email one day, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Let's talk to these guys.
Yeah.
All right. So as far as, I mean, Denny was kind of touching on, you guys really got into the craft beer scene with the really solid hitters, the Shiner Bock, the Cherry Wheat. And yeah, Jeremy, that was one of mine too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just didn't puke up red, so
You're very lucky.
yeah, I'd probably hate it now if that was the case. But anyway, so do you guys have a favorite beer style that you go for now, or what is a go-to beer for you guys? And whoever wants to jump in doesn't have to go in order or anything.
I'll go ahead and jump in on this one. I think being the head brewer, part of the fun part is I get to experiment with styles. So as far as honing in on one style, I don't necessarily do that. I think right now, through our count, we have 20 beers on tap and then 4 separate ciders. So is it 22?
Yeah, I literally counted it up on Frederich. It's 22 beers on tap. Or 22 beers and ciders, so 22 taps that are currently taken.
Yeah, so we try to keep it pretty diverse. I mean, right now we're a little, obviously with it being winter, we're a little stout and high ABV heavy. But my go-to at the brewery right now is we just released a sports beer, which is
Nice.
4.4% ABV. So it's low ABV. It's got all the great characteristics of a nice sports beer. So I can
That
have, three or four of those after shift, and I'm not hating myself or,
Exactly.
that's it. Talk
So
dirty
that,
to me, TJ. That's nice. Little
yeah, yeah.
Schwartz beer.
It's funny because, for the longest time when I took over a tractor, like I remember in 2016 when I started, IPAs were the craze, and we
Yeah.
have this wonderful thing down here in New Mexico, known as Hatch Green Chili, which
Those are
absolutely
delicious.
great flavor, great heat. So, the popular beer around here is just, we just call it an IPA, but everywhere else it's like a double IPA or triple
Hmm.
IPA, with just, 120 IBUs
Hmm.
minimum, just to reset that palate from the green chili. So, I always forget I have kids that are in travel baseball and stuff like that. So we'll go to tournaments in Phoenix and stuff like that. And, I'll order an IPA at some random bar, and I'm like, this isn't an IPA. And I'm like, oh no, this actually is an IPA. This is a really well-made, well-balanced IPA.
Yeah.
They just don't have to deal with green chili out here. So,
Yeah. Nice. I'm a big fan of Schwartz beer, and I'm a big fan of Schwartz beer that is 4% or four and a half
Yep.
percent because I like drinking it, and I like drinking another one right after I drink the first one, and it's nice to be able to have a couple beers and still be able to, walk a straight line. So
Yeah.
right.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
As I always say, it's always nice to be able to drive home after a couple beers. So,
Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
All right, Jeremy, how about you? What's a style that you really
Um,
appreciate?
so when I started out, I went really hoppy, and I went too hoppy early on in my beer journey. And at the same time, I was working at a coffee shop too.
Mm.
So as you can imagine, that kind of ate my stomach alive. Lots of hops, lots of coffee, lots of acid,
Hmm.
and then I used to I got really into pilsners, and then I kind of jumped into ciders there for a while, and then
Hmm.
I was experiencing a little bit of a beer fatigue for the past few years.
Mm.
If I'm being 100% honest with you,
Hmm.
and it's hard. Well, TJ's in it and he still loves it, but I'm there, at the brewery too, and I can smell it and taste it. And you day in, day out, you really have to love the beer, which they do,
Hmm.
obviously. But I got a little fatigued with it with my stomach. But as of late, my reinvigorated my beer journey. In the past 6 months, I've gotten back into having a beer or two
Okay.
on the weekend. But what I've been getting back into is Pilsners
Oh
and
yeah.
just those skunky, just down and dirty. It tastes like, a little bit like,
So the old Heineken.
it was like a little bit of foot brine I can taste in it. I love those dirty
Didn't know you were into
pilsners.
that kind of thing.
Wow.
sure.
Oh boy.
Jeremy loves that. He loves that 3 MBT off flavor.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh
But
boy.
no, I do love a good Eastern European Pilsner, and we have some. I mean, also, we have such a great beer scene here, and
Hmm.
just this past weekend, tasted a great amber Mexican lager from Ex
Mm.
Novo. I
Oh,
had the
excellent.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weekend before I had an imperial cream ale from Nexus. But I just my go-to is a good Pilsner and Pearl Haggard from Ex Novo is always a good go-to. But I do love the Pilsner from La Cumbre, and there's a great one that they have at Quarter Celtic that is phenomenal. So yeah, definitely Pilsners right now are my go-to style.
Okay. So I've had Ex Novo um, I mean, we've had it come up here to Boise, believe it or not. I didn't realize that was a New Mexico brewery, or is it outside of New Mexico?
So
I
I
can only.
believe they had a brewery in, I want to say Portland, and then they
Okay.
built a
in Oregon.
second brewery
Yeah.
location down here in the Albuquerque area.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think in the last 2 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, they closed up their Portland brewery and pretty much moved everything down here to New Mexico.
Corrals,
Okay.
New Mexico.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
Yep,
correct.
Okay. So that.
Corrales.
He's from Corrales originally, and that's
Okay.
why they brought a brewery down here. And Portland's been hit, Oregon in general
Yeah.
has been hit really hard with the bubble bursts,
Mm-hmm.
especially it's happened here in
Yeah.
2025, in 20, well, especially in 2025. But they were successful there, and they were really successful here, and
Yeah.
they opened up just in the past 5 months another location
Okay.
downtown in downtown Albuquerque. So now they have two locations.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense because yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, I've had ex novo, and I was like, I didn't realize it was in New Mexico, but yeah, it makes sense that because I was thinking they were from Portland originally, but I'm like, well, maybe I'm mistaken because I'm getting old. My brain doesn't remember everything clearly, but that makes sense that yeah, if he was from New Mexico and actually wanted to bring his, bring it back to his home state, that you guys are very lucky because I did enjoy the beers that I did have, so
Well, I've
I'm
even
sure you
had
guys
some of
are.
theirs too.
Yeah, you probably did. Yeah,
Stereophonic. I remember that.
yeah.
Good one.
Well, good. That's good to know. I'm sad to see him leave Portland, but good to see you guys are getting some good beer down there. From the Portland area as well.
Yeah.
O- Okay, so now we're going to stick with the style theme here. We're going to go with a style that you at first when you first tasted the style you really did not like, but as your craft beer journey, as you started to get more familiar with beer, you came back to it later on and you actually enjoy it now. So what style did you dislike at first, but now have grown to really enjoy?
I'll let
And
you go
Jeremy, this
first,
might be
Jeremy.
hard. This might be hard for you, Jeremy, because I know you stepped away, but it's okay. Do your best.
I would say, yeah, definitely red ales
Mm,
is something that I've come back to love. I've had a few, and especially because, I'm just trying to be more seasonal and
hmm
experimental about my drinking, but I've never really had a taste for, I know I tasted the first red, like craft red ale I tasted was Marbles, and that wasn't a red ale at all. So then I was kind of seeking out because it was a super hoppy red ale.
Yeah,
It was like,
yeah.
um,
It's like a red
uh,
IPA almost.
yeah, it was a red IPA, which TJ's brewing right now.
Oh,
But
nice.
anyways, it was a red IPA. So I was seeking out that taste and style in particular and
hmm
didn't really know what I was like. And I just would get these super malty, uh, we like bready beers that I was like, I
hmm
wasn't expecting to taste, I was expecting more of a hop forward flavor. But now I really appreciate that. And especially, during the fall season, a good Marzen beer and
Mm.
tasting those. Because that is one thing that has endeared with my tenure at Tractor is how good our Marzen is. And
Mm.
especially with TJ now at the helm, it's exceptionally good. So now I get to judge other people's Marzen beers.
Against the TJ.
So yeah, that's gonna be it for me. But I've come back around and I've had some really good red ales as of late that have been fantastic.
Nice, nice. All right, TJ. How about you? What style did you dislike at first, but you love now?
I wouldn't say that I love it, but it was a style that I really, really disliked. And that would just be anything in sort of the Belgian category.
Oh,
Ah.
yeah.
I don't know what it is about sort of the phenolic,
hmm
peppery flavor of anything. It's an automatic turnoff for me. So, I think as I've kind of continued my beer journey, and we actually released a couple different style Belgian beers this year, just to try to throw something different at the wall and see if it
hmm
stuck. But it's not an automatic turn off. It's not going to be my preferred. But if
Yeah.
you set down a Belgian wit in front of me, I'm not gonna not drink it and say, "Oh
hmm
my God, this is terrible. I can't stomach it." It's where, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was just like, I can't do this. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's terrible. But,
Yeah. No.
like I said, not a style I love, but it's a style I can appreciate now. It's a style that when we brew at the brewery, I can taste it and say, okay, like, this is correct or this is incorrect. So, and I think being a head brewer, like, you have your styles you like, you have your beers you like.
Hmm.
I know what I like, I know what I don't like, but I can also taste something I don't like and say, hey, this is correct. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like it, but this is correct. This was everything it needs to be style wise. And, then it's also having that team around you that
Yeah.
may or may not like the same styles who, we can bounce it off of 4 other people and say, hey, this is great. This is not great. Like, this is the style. This is not the style. So,
Hmm.
so that I would have to go with anything Belgian, but probably specifically Belgian wits.
Okay. No, understandable because Kris and I both did not like Belgians at first, and we both have over the years have grown to enjoy them. I'm not sure if Kris you enjoy them as much as me, but I really have gone from a total dislike to where I just I really appreciate the style and all the different styles within the Belgian as well, and even like the Belgian dark strong ale is like one of my favorite beer styles, right? Recently, I mean, within the last 10 years, it's become one of my favorite because I just love all that dark fruit character that comes out in that style, and I've gotten, like you said, it was the esters threw me off too. I didn't appreciate early on in my craft beer journey. Again, my beer journey started back in the early 90s, and when I drank Belgian, a lot of the beers, the craft beer scene wasn't huge, and so we got a lot of our external beers from outside the country. And when I was drinking Belgian styles, that those esters just turned me off. Like, wait a minute, what's these funky things going on? This bubble gum and this
Right.
clove and this
Right.
stuff. I'm like, this is not normal. And then when I revisited it back in the, in around 2010, I guess, is about the time I revisited the Belgian style. I started seeking out some of those styles that were, really high, the high end Belgian beers. And I just realized that, wow, my palate has matured and now I can appreciate the flavors that this has given me. So yeah, I can understand, um, the dislike and now, now you can appreciate it. And then I think eventually you'll grow to really, adore the Belgian style eventually as your craft beer journey evolves. At least I am.
That's my hope.
Yeah, well, my palate is basically the only thing that has matured on me. So that's,
Right.
but it's yeah, like Denny said, I was just kind of actually that was the whole reason I reached out to the show for the very first time. Was like, how do you guys drink these things? Like I can't do it. And I was fortunate enough to have a local grocery store nearby where I lived in Ohio, and the guy that was the beer buyer said, "Listen, just try the beer and try to pick out each flavor that you taste in
Hmm.
the beer and see if you can enjoy that flavor." And I was like, well, that seems weird, but okay. And it was kind of a nice segue to get me to try other beers and go,
Hmm.
okay, well, I taste that, banana flavor. Oh, that's kind of nice. It's enjoyable. And then it was a downward spiral from there. And now kind of like with Denny, the Belgian strong ales and get into the doubles and the quads and like, come on, let's try them all. Let's try them all.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. All right. So, other than Tractor, because, we know Tractor gets plenty of love. What's a brewery or beer that doesn't get enough love?
I'm gonna let TJ
I
go
will.
first.
I was gonna say I'm gonna say this at the behest of like Jeremy giving it love earlier in the podcast, but I actually think Nexus's Imperial Cream Ale is a
Mm.
great beer. It's high ABV. It has everything you want in a cream ale. Um,
Oh, yeah.
it is probably, if I see it on tap, at a bar I'm going to, or if we sit down for dinner and I just happen to see it on tap, I'm gonna take that beer 10 times out of 10 over anything else they have on tap. So
Really?
yeah, I really like it. I probably don't drink it enough just because one of my good friends does work there, so so we end up meeting at his place like once a week, and I end up drinking, two or three of them anyway. So, but yeah, I think when you look at all the big breweries in Albuquerque, you have your Marbles, you have your Ex Novos, Lacumbres, Bosque, Santa Fe. It's actually smaller than us in that
Hmm.
they use a 7 barrel brew house, and they have, I think, 2 locations that they service and do a little bit of distribution. So, but I would say from a brewing standpoint, in the Albuquerque beer scene, that's a beer that's severely, severely underrated.
What's the beer called?
It's
Or is it
just
just a
called
cream ale?
Imperial Cream Ale
Okay.
And
Yeah,
and
from
it won a. Oh, sorry. What were you saying, sir?
oh no, I
oh
was
no, go
actually
ahead.
about to point that out. I was like, it did actually win, I think, a couple GABF and maybe a
Oh,
World Beer Cup awards. So I mean, it's a pretty solid cream ale. So
Yeah, it won a. I'm pretty sure it won a. Oh, it won a gold, and then they have a honey chamomile that won. Honey chamomile wheat that won a silver.
hmm.
So one of the reasons why we've gone to it recently because it's down the street. It's literally down the street from my girlfriend's house. So
Oh,
it's really nice to have that just in your neighborhood.
hmm.
So
But it's an
I was gonna say, Jeremy, are you saying you go to her house because the brewery's there, or you go
no.
to the brewery because your girlfriend's house is there?
No, we live very close to each other, so they're all kind of in the same mode. But this one's a lot closer to her than it is me. But I will echo that sentiment. But there's one that I want to say that I've gone back to this place for this beer, and I had talked to you about it, TJ. So it's Quarter Celtic Brew Pub here in Albuquerque, and it's the Prince of Dortness, and it's a lager
Oh,
Dortmunder.
oh,
Um,
nice.
which is phenomenal, like in terms of taste. Even uh, when I switched it over to my girlfriend, she's got a good palate, and I was like, "You gotta try this." And even she was like, "Oh my God." That's a really good beer, but she did have the same reaction to the Imperial Cream Ale, TJ. So,
yeah,
but she really liked
Al's
that
got good
Dortmund.
taste.
Yeah, she does. And then I even tasted it, she got one too. But the Prince of Dortmunder at Quarter Celtic, yeah, I think it's underrated. But in generally speaking, I think Quarter Celtic gets the love that they deserve here in town. But that one in particular, and then there's the High Plains Pilsner from Canteen Brewing, which I like a lot. Um, that
I
one's
was gonna
fantastic.
say another great beer from Quarter Celtic is their Italian Pilsner, their
Oh,
spaghetti western. So
Oh, that one's
that
phenomenal.
is,
You're
Great name
totally
yeah,
right.
too.
I forgot about that one. That one's phenomenal. Yeah. So those are some good. I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware of like our local craft beer scene is so big here, and the well to pull from in terms of delicious and amazing beers and brewers. It's tough. It's very competitive here, and there's not a big high to take from, in terms of how many craft beer drinkers you have in a
hmm.
rural state. It's very competitive. So
Yeah,
a lot of these breweries, I mean, they bring their A game and they
yeah.
know how to brew some good beer. So
That's
we're
another that
very lucky.
I was gonna say that's another reason I love that we get to. I mean, we had I don't know exactly who reached out to us on behalf of you guys. Whoever Joshua Hernandez is with LWE Digital sent us the original email, and you said, Jeremy, that like you guys have a lot of craft beer going on in and around the Albuquerque area. And you know what the messed up part is not trying to like take a jab, but I had no idea. I mean, we like,
Wow, really?
yeah, well, and you got to figure I'm in Tampa, so I'm on the opposite end of the country from you guys, and I feel like between, Asheville, North Carolina, 10 hours north of us, and Tampa in itself. I mean,
Mm.
people claim us to be like a craft beer mecca. And then I had, until I had met Denny a few years back, I would have never been like, oh yeah, Boise's got great beer. Like, it's cool to hear that you guys are having these kind of blow ups for your craft beer, and you're like, oh, there's so much good beer in our area. And to me, that just makes me go, well, I know I gotta take a trip to Albuquerque because
Yeah.
we've got dog training locations in that area too. So it can be a business
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've been voted like top 10 beer cities and all those like TripAdvisor magazines like that and such, and it's become a tourism attraction here in
Hmm.
Albuquerque and in Santa Fe. But we that brings people to our state, and
Mhm.
especially to Albuquerque, because we do have so many amazing breweries. And whenever I go to CBC, and I think TJ can speak to this, you know, there'll be people that'll be like, "Oh, wait, you're from Albuquerque? Oh, okay, all
Mm,
right." They're like,
nice.
they know, all right, we're in a serious craft beer scene here. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of breweries with GABF golds, silvers, just a lot of medals all around. So, and like I said, it's a small market and it's very
Hmm.
competitive. So, it just steps it up that higher in terms of what you have to do to survive as a brewery here
Hmm.
in New
Hmm.
Mexico.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
it's
was gonna
it's
say,
it's pretty great.
I think one of the coolest parts last year was when we were sitting in the award ceremony at World Beer Cup, and just a lady at a table next to us happened to look over at my name tag, and she's like, "Oh, Tractor Brewing," and I believe she was from Illinois or Iowa, somewhere in the Midwest, and she's like, "Hey, I stopped by your brewery a couple of years ago. I really liked your beer," and it's like, wow, like
Nice.
people always remember the name, but it's funny how many people I run into that know the beer or at least
Hmm.
know of the brewery. I've got a friend in San Antonio who has friends that know of the brewery.
Hmm.
So like I said, we're known. I don't know how well known. Maybe it's a very small pocket of people who all know each other, but
No, that's awesome though, because like I said, we may not hear about it, but then you guys have kind of like Albuquerque might be the area that just doesn't get enough love, at least outside of your, I guess, general area. Like there's so many places we could check out now, and just like I said, people from the Midwest are like, oh yeah, we went and visited you guys 2 years ago, and it was a great experience. So I love hearing about that, and it's definitely one of the reasons that Denny and I love doing what we do, and we get to
Hmm.
chat with people and different breweries and different areas, heck, even all over the world, uh, and what you guys are experiencing and what you guys have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. And yeah, that Josh was actually Skyer owner's partner. So he's the one that reached out to you on a whim
Nice.
after we
Oh.
won that GABF gold, and he listens to you guys. So he's the one that put the feelers out. And you guys responded, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, no,
yeah,
no.
hi
We're
Josh, if you're listening.
Yeah, what's
yeah.
up,
Hey,
man?
Josh.
Appreciate the email. Send us other emails. We'll get
All
into
right.
that.
One last question on our personal craft beer journeys here. So again, looking towards a brewery, a beer, or a style of beer that's no longer available that you wish would make a comeback. Either a brewery that's gone out of business, a beer that's no longer being made by a brewery that you appreciate, or a style that disappeared. Uh, which would you like to make see a comeback?
Oh man, I'll jump all over this one.
Okay, yeah, do it
I
to
want to
us.
Yes.
say like this beer probably in the local market went away 4 years ago, 5 years
Hmm.
ago, and that's Santa Fe State Pen Porter.
Okay.
Oh, I remember that
They
one.
they made a really great porter, and actually one of the first styles I ever brewed, home brewing wise, that people liked was a porter. So I've always kind of had an affinity for just a really good porter. Unfortunately, drinking styles and habits now,
Yeah.
most people will only roll out a porter as a seasonal. This was a year round Um, it was a year-round tap that they had, but they also canned it, so I could like walk down to the local convenience store or,
Mm,
grab it at the supermarket. But unfortunately, they just didn't sell enough of it, and it went away. And so, just the style of porter coming back, but that specific one would make
yeah.
me the happiest person on earth. So,
And that was
Yeah.
Santa Fe Brewing Company.
yeah, Santa Fe Brewing Company. It was the state pen porter.
That's a cloudy looking
That's
thing.
How about you, Jeremy? Do you have anything?
So I can't, okay, so I forget the name. I know the original name of it. So I love, once again, speaking to our scene here in the Southwest, I really loved ska brewing. And they used to do a bomber of this, like, it was more like an imperial true blonde ale, and it was so good. And I
Hmm.
remember buying that all the time, anytime I saw it, and I just never, like after a year or two, it just disappeared. And it was like when bombers became not cool again.
Mm.
Yeah, there was like an age when bombers were all over the place. Like I can even recognize like there's that rogue. I
Hmm.
think it's a maple bacon bomber you have down there.
Horrible, horrible beer, by the way. I have
It's
the
so
bottle.
bad.
I have the bottle right here. Yes, it's.
But they even did a yellow wax top on it, and it was so good. And I used to buy it, and I would even buy like a couple or three bottles, and me and my buddy would drink it up. So that's one that I miss a lot because
Mm,
I haven't really, after that, I never like my affinity and love for like really good blonde ales kind of died out. But
yeah.
Scott did it up right, and I mean, their regular true blonde ale is really good too. But I haven't seen that in our market either as of
Mm,
recently.
yeah.
And maybe I'm just not looking for it hard enough, but that's one that I really miss.
Okay.
Mm.
That's perfect. Yeah. There's a lot of beers that have disappeared that I wish would come back, and some are because the breweries are no longer around. Some are just because the breweries just don't, they didn't have enough sales to say, okay, we're going to brew this beer and we're going to be able to sell and make a profit off it. They weren't making a profit, so they have to, you know, move away from it. But they do come back. Like, for example, one that I love, and I was so sad when it disappeared, was from Firestone Walker's, their Wookie Jack
Oh
Black
yeah.
IPA. I don't know why that beer was so awesome originally, and I loved it, and then it disappeared, and they started bringing it back a couple years ago, and every time it comes back at the end of the year, I try to find it and grab a couple six packs because it's just a fantastic black IPA that not the style black IPA is making a comeback, which is good because it's a style that I really appreciate. But then beers like Wookie Jack, it's to me it's like the perfect example of that style that I just really love. And it sounds like the Imperial Blonde is a style that is not a common style.
Nope.
And a lot of times the Imperial Blonde comes across one of the reasons that I think that it doesn't last is because it's hard to mask the alcohol in that blonde. And
Mhm.
I had an Imperial Blonde here from Tin Barrel Brewing here in town, and I loved it. But back before back when we were getting beers out of a growler because they didn't can beers, I go get a growler of this beer and I drink three glasses, take a nap, and then finish off my last glass because
Denny's a
it literally
badass.
it literally put me out because it was like a 12% beer, and it was just like, wow, that is way too big for a blonde, for
Yeah.
a blonde ale.
Right.
Well, great answers. I really appreciate it. And again, what we love to find out is when people talk about beers that that other people haven't ever experienced that maybe will make a comeback and they'll be able to try those beers if it does come back. So I'm glad you guys were able to share that with us. So hey, that will end our personal craft beer journey questions. Let me do a couple things and we'll get right into our brew buzz. So Kris and I would like to thank all of our Patreon supporters because this episode is brought to you in part by satisfied Patreon supporters like Mike Allen, Bill Slemmer, Amanda and Kevin Argauer, Mike Blanchard, Tara Carlson, Jim Kutzel, Alex Fuchs, and Eric Scotty Ward, who are our virtual producers, and Tom Byrne, Jeff Seiler, Johan Halberg, Chalamasa, Mark Church, Eric Gronley, and Batman Dave, who wants to buy us a
Dan,
virtual beer.
Batman Dan.
I mean, Dan.
Batman
See,
Dan.
I've been drinking too much. I got Dan and Dave all messed up.
It's all right.
If you would like to, if you enjoy the content we provide, we invite you to support the show by toasting your host or buying some virtual beer or even becoming a virtual producer. You can find the options on our support page by visiting patreon.com/tapthecraft. All right, that gave you a brief moment to catch your breath before we go right into the Brew Buzz. And we're going to start that right now. And the Brew Buzz is devoted to discussing various beer-related topics. This week, we're going to learn all about Tractor Brewing and learn some background behind TJ's brewing experience. Now, TJ, you already kind of gave us a little bit of background, but we'll go a little bit deeper into some of your experience in brewing. So we're going to start off.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, you like talking about beer and brewing, right?
Oh yeah, just a little bit.
Okay, good. But first, we're going to start off with the story behind Tractor Brewing. So we understand that both of you aren't original members of Tractor Brewing, but I'm sure, Jeremy, you definitely know the story since you are the operations manager here. So what is the origin story behind Tractor Brewing?
All right. It's nice because I have to do this for orientation at least
Okay.
2 times a month, so I'm well versed in it. And then TJ does the fun part, the beer orientation.
Okay.
So
I'm the fun uncle.
yeah.
Well, if I need to get oriented when I'm in Albuquerque next, I'll be sure to give you a call.
Well,
That sounds good.
yeah. But Tractor actually started in 1999 out of Los Lunas, New Mexico. It was founded by an individual named Herb Plumer, and he ran several businesses around New Mexico, including a machining factory and a restaurant in Los Lunas called Ribs. And that was the inspiration for him to start one. He saw a little bit of it, but he wanted to start brewing his own beer. And Herb also really likes tractors. And when I say he likes tractors, I mean he probably has one of the foremost, if not the most expansive collector tractor, or yeah, the biggest tractor collection in the nation. I'm talking like,
Wow.
model tractors like this big that are from the 1930s worth like $10,000, $12,000.
Oh,
So he's a serious collector of tractors,
Okay.
big and small. So he really loves them. So he decided to name it Tractor Brewing. And it was a small facility outside of the back of Ribs, not very nice. And he was brewing just enough beer for the restaurant for Ribs and trying his best, had a brewer come in and kind of run the facility, who is well versed. What was his name? The first one? Do you remember, TJ?
I want to say David, but could be
With
I could be wrong on that.
two Davids?
Yeah,
Because it was
I think there was another David. I'm pretty sure it was. You
he's
wouldn't have asked me, I would have been able to rattle it off. So
sorry. Well, he's a little bit of a known brewing mercenary here in New Mexico. So he came in, he brewed some beer. They were making just enough for the restaurant. The
Hmm.
name caught on, and it was about in 2010 where our current owner, Sky DeVore, got involved. She had worked for him at his machining factory at Accurate, sorry, working there, and she was interested in potentially taking it over. And he is like, hey, I need some help with this. Can you do it? And she started doing that in her off time and kind of taking over, doing some offsite events. And then at a certain point, he had offered to sell it to her because she was interested. And this was in, I want to say, 2010, 2011. And that's
Okay.
when our other owner, David Hargis, came on and they had met at an offsite event. We used to do these offsite events at a theater here in town. And I'm talking not like, I'm talking about live theater. and they connected there. And David had mentioned he had done some home brewing. He had done some distilling, fermentation, made wine and stuff like that, and was, potentially interested, and she hired him as a brewer. He came on and he had never brewed on a commercial system before. And he went there and he winged it and he did it and the beer came out good.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, but then the second batch did not come out good and it was dumped down the drain. So, and then it was
Beginner's
in
luck.
about, yeah, in 2011, late 2011, around then, where it was formally handed over to Sky and David, and they bought the company from her at that point. And it was in 2012 that they opened up the Nob Hill location here in Albuquerque. So Los Lunas is about 20 miles south of Albuquerque. It's a village of Los Lunas. So, anywho, they bought a tap room here in Albuquerque, in Nob Hill, and that's when I said when 2012 when I came to discover Tractor myself, and they kicked ass. They kicked a
Mm.
lot of ass, and it did really, really well. And it was perfect timing, and it was a great location, a good vibe. I mean, it was all around amazing. And then from there, it just kind of went to the moon. In 2014, we decided to move our operation. Well, the 2013 is when we decided to move our operation from Los Lunas to Albuquerque, and we got the Wells Park location on 4th Street, which is currently our brewery. So we moved that and we opened up a tap room there too. So that was in 2014. We opened up the Wells Park Tap Room. Our whole brew facility has moved down there, larger capacity, nicer. We had a warehouse, and that's when we pulled away fully from Los Lunas. But then in 2017, we opened up a third location in Fort Hills. That didn't turn out so great, pandemic and stuff, but we
Mm.
closed that down in 2020,
Mm.
2021 actually. But in 2018, we opened up a West Side location that did well. We still have that one. And then in 2019, we went back to Los Lunas again to try and reclaim our home. But once again, pandemic 2020, and we ended up closing that one down last year. So we currently have three locations. They're doing amazing. Nob Hill, West Side, and our home brewing location where TJ and I are located at our Wells Park spot.
Okay. So, wow, that's a lot of information. Let me go back a little bit. So when you moved in from okay, so back in the Las Lunas uh, time frame, I'm assuming that was the only craft beer in that area in this Ribs, back alley, or was I mean, and so it sounds like that was a destination location for people to go have some good barbecue and drink some beer, or I mean, was it a thriving uh, investment there where the town was, or I mean, because you guys moved out to Albuquerque, and I'm kind of trying to figure out why you moved to Albuquerque, and then was Albuquerque not quite? I mean, was it needing some extra craft beer scene? So you guys came in and sparked interest in craft beer, and that's why things started going well. Because you said things started booming when you moved to Albuquerque.
Well, I mean, things were booming a bit, and Sky and David saw that, and so that's what the impetus was for the purchase and move. It
Mm.
wasn't a move. I mean, it was technically opening a tap room, and
Okay,
in Nob
expanding.
Hill, which
Yeah.
yeah, which is on Route 66, is on
Oh, okay.
Central, and it's in the university area.
Okay.
So this property became open. It was a little bit of a smaller tap room, but it was near Kelly's, which I had told you about, which had shitty beer, good food, lots of people.
So
So
they
we were
just
thinking,
moved from there to your place, right?
well, we were no, well, that's yeah, exactly. We took a bunch of their customers, so that's what the impetus was. But at the time, in Nob Hill, that would have been the only like it's Kelly's and us, and
Okay.
so
Okay.
in
So
that
you
area with lots of commerce, so
okay.
that's why it worked out so well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a great opportunity because I'm wearing a Jim Dandy Brewing shirt here, and they're Pocatello, Idaho, small town. There was only one brewery there before they came in. They came in and just basically took over all the business because they were brewing beers that were like, you know, way better than anything else in the area. And so it sounds about right. The same thing. You guys came in, beer was way better than what they were getting, and then the customers came over, and you guys, had a whole new customer base and market. So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I, I mean, I guess you just answered my next question that I had on here is, you guys are in Albuquerque, and what makes your location so special? And I think it's you kind of you kind of already hinted at the fact that you found an opportunity, you took advantage of it, and but what else makes Albuquerque? You said you have 3 locations in Albuquerque. Um, Obviously, Albuquerque has expanded greatly since I was there. So you need 3 locations to be able to serve everyone, and all the locations are thriving in the Albuquerque area. Um, I mean, you'd say you tried to go back to Los Lunas, but it was a bad timing during the COVID time. So obviously that didn't pan out. But what makes Albuquerque so special for Tractor Brewing?
Well, Albuquerque, I mean, TJ, do you want to take this one? Or do you want
I
me
mean,
to?
I can take it a little bit. I mean, Albuquerque, I think population wise, in the metro area, including Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, is right around like 800,000 people. But
Okay.
those 800,000 people are dispersed amongst like a really large area of land.
Okay.
Albuquerque's very, very spread out. I would say from like the southern tip of the South Valley up to the northern part of the city, or the metro area, which would be Bernalillo, northern Rio Rancho. I mean, you're
Hmm.
talking about on the interstate is probably a 25-30 minute drive.
Okay. Wow.
So you don't have a massive population that you would have in
And it can.
like a Dallas or
Yeah.
a Philadelphia. You have the same area, but you don't really have that like population density.
Hmm.
So when you look at a place like Albuquerque, we have 3 tap rooms that are fairly well spread out. I mean, Nob Hill and Wells Park are fairly close, but they're not close enough that you really see a lot of the same guests
Yeah.
frequenting both tap rooms. We do have some that frequent each tap room, but like people that drink out at the west side, they don't come to Wells Park or Nob Hill. It's too far. Part of the reason we were talking about Ex Novo earlier, that I'm really happy to get the Ex Novo downtown, is that's about
Hmm.
20 minutes closer to my house than the Corrales location. And if I'm going to drive all the way out to Corrales, I can have one beer before I have to drive back home because it's
Yeah.
such a long drive. So,
Okay.
and just as a case in point, like if you look at Albuquerque, like we have 3 Costco locations. There's
Mm.
one on the west side, there's one
Damn.
in the center of town, and there's one in southeast. I mean, not what you would expect of a town of 800,000 people,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially when you look, at the closest Costco location to us is actually down in El Paso. If you take those 3 away, which is,
Oh.
I believe, a shade over 1 million people, with Juarez on the other side of the border, they have one Costco location.
So you
Hmm.
guys
So
are
it's just
living it up over there, huh?
we're yeah, I know me some Costco, and I
Nice.
know some beer, so that's but it's just about traffic patterns and population density and stuff like that. So
Okay.
when we talk about areas, and I think a lot of other breweries have done this too, where they look at certain sides of town and it's like, hey, well, we don't have a west side location,
Hmm.
or we have a west side location, but it's too far upper west side. We need to be lower west side. So it's all about claiming that territory and trying to get as many people to your tap room as possible,
Okay.
without them having to sort of drive out of their little bubbles. So
Yeah. No, no, makes sense. Makes sense. So your production brewery is in, you said the West,
Wells Park.
Wells
Yeah,
Park,
yeah,
Wells
and
Park, which is close to downtown. Yeah.
that close to
yeah.
downtown. What size brew house do you have, and how much production do you guys do a year?
So we have a 15-barrel brew house. Sorry, I
Okay.
was trying to do the math in my head, and I think we were just shy of 4,000 barrels last
Okay.
year.
Nice.
So I believe we were roughly 3,800. So
Okay. Nice. Nice. All right, Kris, I'll let you ask your questions now. Sorry.
It's okay. Listen, you talk. I just
I like to talk.
yeah, yeah, it happens. All right. So guys, one of the big highlights off of our that we were excited to chat with you guys was, if I could spit this out right and say it correctly. One of the big highlights was to chat with you guys about your GABF win last year in 2024. Can you tell us about the beer that won, and have you guys taken home any other awards recently?
so the beer that won our GABF medal was our Milk Mustachio Stout. That is a core beer which is available year round in the tap rooms, and then also available in 4 packs at a lot of different locations across New Mexico. When I took over as the head brewer in 2021, we hadn't really been doing a lot of competitions. We've won some smaller awards. I know our oatmeal stout won at like the Los Angeles International Beer Fest, maybe back in 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. Um, but I really wanted to get us a GABF medal or a
Hmm.
World Beer Cup medal. We hadn't had one, so I submitted some beers my first year. We ended up getting our Pilsner 15 on the final table that year,
Hmm.
and so one of those exciting things, like, hey, I'm not completely screwing this up. Like,
Hmm.
maybe I know what I'm doing. So we kind of took some notes off the other beers that we submitted and submitted the exact same beers the next year. And Pilsner made final table again. And then the other three beers we sent just got absolutely crushed.
Oh.
Mm.
And, so being as, just my personality is, okay, let's dig into this, let's figure it out. And really started diving into a lot of the judges' comments and trying to figure out what it was they were looking for. Started investigating, the things they said were wrong with it, starting to make adjustments on different beers. And I really thought, because we were so close on the Pilsner, that when we came to World Beer Cup this next year, that we were going to be in prime position to get the Pilsner on the stage. And it didn't happen. We ended up not getting anything at World Beer Cup, which was disappointing, but I knew we had made enough changes in sort of the process. I'm not a big recipe guy. I'm more of a process guy. Are we hitting all the marks on our process? Because if we're doing that, then obviously the fix is recipe, and those are simple. When you're having to fix processes, it's
Hmm.
it's really not that simple. But I was comfortable enough in our process at that point that I knew if we didn't medal at World Beer Cup, a lot of what I was going to get back was recipe stuff, and that is almost exclusively what we got back from World
Hmm.
Beer Cup. So we made a couple changes. I made a change to the Pilsner. Once again, it was final table and just didn't pull it home. I was like, all right, we got to do something different. I probably zigged when I should have zagged on that one. And so that one actually ended up getting kicked off the table immediately. So
Hmm.
that was always what I thought was going to be our first medal. And we sent a couple of other beers, and of course, milk stout and oatmeal stout are the two categories that are back to back. I think one's 83, one's 84. So we were sitting at the brewery. We had made a slight adjustment to a singular grain in our milk stout. Grain makes up less than 5% of the grain bill. Um, and sent that off. And of course, we're sitting there. They named the bronze medalist. The silver medalist actually ended up being another brewery in Albuquerque, Boxing
Hmm.
Bear Brewing. They
Hmm.
had the chocolate milk stout silver in that category. And I think it was me and the three other brewers in the room. And I think our heart just kind of sunk, like, oh
Hmm.
my God, like there's no way that the two best milk stouts or sweet stouts in the country are brewed in Albuquerque.
Hmm.
And about that time, our it was really weird because our closed captioning that we had on was up to date, but the actual like
Yeah.
video was behind. So we read that we won it first, and we read it, and we all kind of looked at each other, and then they posted it up and announced it. And I mean, we went nuts. So it was one of those like really surreal moments that we have tried so hard to get a medal. And like I said, that was our first medal from GABF. We actually celebrated and then had to go back and rewind to make sure we didn't win anything in the oat meal stout category. So I was like, maybe we won a second one, but no, just the one. Like I said, we put in a lot of hard work back
Hmm.
there since I took over in 21. Just trying to get very consistent in our practices, making sure we have a system for everything so that when we do get something back about an off flavor, whether you get an
Hmm.
ester or something in an ale or a lager, it's like, okay, what could have led to that? And
Yeah.
I'm 100% confident in our practices back there right now. So I kind of said in our press release that this wasn't the end of the story; it's just the beginning. As
Nice.
I tell the brewers every day, it's nice to get your first one and you get to have, do these things and do interviews with local papers and local journalists. And, you kind of get to be Cinderella. But
Hmm.
the thing about Cinderella is she never actually gets asked back to the ball. So
No.
I don't want us to do that. Like we want to be back there. We want this to be the first of many. So
Okay. TJ, can you describe the characteristics of your milk stout that I mean, milk stout's a tough one because it really, for me, I'm not a huge milk stout fan because a lot of the milk stouts come across with that artificial sweetness from the lactose that you kind of taste in there. So what made your milk stout stand out as a gold medal winner in that category? Can you explain that? The process that you used to get those characteristics um, that didn't have any of the off flavors or the artificial, uh, you know, lactose sweetness to it?
so yeah, I think a lot of the process that we used was we really made it a point coming out of World Beer Cup last year to dial in our pHs because
Oh,
it
okay.
was it was kind of the one thing we didn't. I mean, we tested it, but it wasn't a we didn't start or stop something or make a correction on it based what the pH was. We would look at things and say, okay, yeah, it's a little high, but it'll be fine. So we came up with some clear directives on the pH of, hey, any beer that we start with, this needs to be our starting pH. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like this is where we start. And that I think changed a lot of what we were doing because it forced us to really zone in on a bunch of things. We said, hey, if our grain in temperature and our mash temperature is at 152, we have to be between 150 and 154, and anything else requires a correction. When we take our yeast calculations, we do our yeast counts and cell counts and say, okay, we're going to have to pitch, 7 gallons of our ale yeast in order to, achieve the correct pitch rate. And
Hmm.
so when we did that, it kind of got into, well, how far off can our actual starting gravity be before, it requires a correction on the brew house. So really, it started just kind of this whole area on the process of, hey, we knew the process was right, but where where are the rails? Like when we're outside of this measurement, like at what point is it not okay to be outside that measurement?
Hmm.
Like if we're going to start at 15 Plato, if we're at 16, is it okay? If we're at 15 and a half, it's okay. So some of it was kind of arbitrary, and I think I probably dialed it in too much because there was a point where it was like, hey, we can't be any more than zero point 0.1 Plato above or below. And it's really funny because if you go back and look at our brew log from the milk stout, you just see us making corrections left and
Yeah.
right on the second
Yeah.
brew on that. And it was kind of like, all right, maybe that wasn't the way. I mean, I get it got us where we wanted to go, but it's not feasible for us to be on
Hmm.
the brew house every day. Like, oh man, we're half a Plato high. Let's pull it back. Oh man, now we're point 0.3 Plato low. Let's do this. So, it's really been establishing that criteria of, hey, this is where we make a correction. This is where we don't make a correction. Because I don't
Hmm.
know that a year ago, when we sent that off to GABF, that we would have made corrections. It's just like, hey, we're a Plato high.
Yeah.
Now we're under pitching, and maybe that led to some of the off flavors. I'll say we didn't get any off flavor sensory panel stuff at GABF. So kind of know if we go to World Beer Cup this year and don't get those, that maybe that was the reason it happened. So
Okay. Did you know when you tasted this batch that actually won? Did you sense anything different from the previous batches you have made? Did you feel that this was a like the perfect beer, or were you're like, hey, this is good. We'll see how goes. I mean, did you have any feelings on it when you before you sent it off?
it's really funny because this batch release, I was actually on vacation in Florida,
Oh,
so
so someone
I didn't
else.
get to taste.
Good
Yeah, well,
times.
I
Good
mean,
times.
we transferred it. We kegged it. I mean, we have a good enough sensory panel that if three of us taste it, minus me, I would have been the fourth.
Yeah.
And three of us, even if I would have been like, hey, this is horrible, we're not releasing it. Like, if three of us are like, hey, it's good. And,
Hmm.
we all compliment each other as far as a sensory panel goes. But they actually messaged me. I was having dinner on a Wednesday night in like St. Augustine, Florida. And uh, one of the brewers messaged me and was like, hey, this batch of milk stouts are really good.
Hmm.
And of course, like I said, we changed the grain, which the hope was it was slightly harsh with a little bit too much roasted coffee flavor, which I
Ah.
think didn't really complement the sweetness. So the grain change we made it a little smoother. It wasn't quite as harsh. You still got that coffee flavor, but it was blended really well.
Hmm.
So when I got back to work that Monday, the very first thing I did was taste it, and I was like, this is really good, but
Hmm.
you know, I always try to temper my expectations.
Yeah.
You never want to get everyone all worked up, like, hey, we're gonna win a medal, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. So, but it was in the back of my head between that and the Pilsner. I thought we had really two good shots at
Hmm.
walking away with a medal. So my confidence kind of got rocked a little bit when the Pilsner didn't do as well.
Yeah.
But it was a pleasant surprise. I wouldn't say I was completely shocked when
No.
we walked away with a medal.
No, no, it sounded like good moves. I'm just saying, for me, like the earlier question I asked you guys is what style did you dislike earlier but like now? Mine is milk stout. I'm still not a huge fan of milk stout, but I have seen that with the maturity of brewers out there brewing more modern milk stouts, that my enjoyment of that style is much greater now than it was back 10 years ago, because I just don't think a lot of breweries were brewing them very well, and now they've, like you said, you can dial in the pH and the grain bill, so you don't have that. You have a good balance in there, and make them way more balanced and enjoyable. And I think from what I hear from what you did, that's what you accomplished with this beer, and it paid off with an award. So congratulations on that. That's great. You're going to keep trying for that Pilsner, right? You're not going to give up on that.
Oh no, Pilsner's already submitted to World Beer
Okay.
Cup, so it's I think it's getting kegged next week, so we'll be ready to go on that.
Okay, good. And did you make adjustments from the last submitting, or are you kind of going
So
with
what we
what you?
really instead of, I said I zigged when I should have zagged. I just
Yeah,
went back to the original recipe, and
yeah.
I kind of, instead of going one way, I went the other. So
Okay.
maybe it gets booted off first table again, and I just go back to the
the
original
original.
recipe and keep
Yeah.
banging my head against the wall and hope someday
So
someone's
what?
gonna.
Yeah. So what? I mean, you've already mentioned earlier in the show that you lean towards the European Pilsner. Is that what this beer is? Is more European style, looking for that earthy, noble hop spiciness character to it, or is it something that's more German style?
So it's more German style.
Okay.
We actually, because of the ABV, we have to submit it in the Dortmunder category
Oh, okay.
because yeah, we end up with our ABV, we're at about 6.2%.
Oh,
Give
wow.
or
Yeah.
take a little bit of attenuation in there, but yeah, it's once again sort of the Albuquerque way. You know, you've got to be a little
Go
higher in
big.
ABV
Yeah, you
than
got to go big.
yeah. So so
Yeah.
it was probably a little more bitter than it needed to be to actually be in the Dortmunder category. It was probably just right for a Pilsner, but
Okay.
yeah, it's always easier to pull a little bit of hops out and go with that higher ABV category than it is to try to lower the ABV and then hope you get that balance. So
Okay. Yeah, it's tough to do. The higher ABV lagers and pilsners they are tough. Um, but yeah, no, Dortmunder is it's a good style, and it's funny we've mentioned Dortmunder a couple times already in the show, and it's a style that is not talked about very often. So it's funny that we mention it so much in this episode. But yeah, the higher ABV can be a challenge for sure. All right, Kris, continue on.
Well, guys, your tagline is "Get plowed." By the way, I love it. I read
Yeah,
that when I started looking
thank
into
you.
you guys. What's it mean to get plowed at Tractor Brewing?
It means to drink responsibly, Chris. That's what it means.
I could tell. I really could tell
Uh,
by
uh,
just those two words.
yeah. It's just a play on words,
Yeah.
tractor brewing, have fun, drink, responsibly and just have a good time. So that's what it's about. It's about having a great time and drinking good craft beer. It's funny trying because I have a getplowed.com or at getplowed.com email address. So anything outside of that context of beer, it's very hard to explain to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Or you find some weird websites.
yeah, yeah, especially
Yeah,
like checking into a hotel room or something.
yeah.
They're like, yo, Jeremy at getplow.com, huh? And I have to explain that I work for a brewery called Tractor Brewing. So,
You talk about marketing, you checking into hotels or going to different events, and when they ask you for your email address, you should be recording that part right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
my email
yeah.
address is jeremy@getplowed.com. It's what? Yeah,
yeah,
getplowed.com. Right.
yeah,
That'd be so
that's
good.
actually a great idea, Chris.
I I I, uh, I love it. By the way,
Yeah.
I mean I understand that in modern times things are moving away from the fun innuendo type stuff, but I do appreciate it. But have you guys been hit up with changing the get plowed because to make it more mature?
Uh, we still see get plug. Denny, like our number one selling shirt is one
Is
that says "Get Plowed" on it.
there you
So,
go. Okay.
um,
Thank
uh,
God. No.
so I don't think we're making a more mature, streamlined logo, but guess what? It still says "Get Plowed" on it.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I'm okay.
I'm
I'm okay
sorry, too
with it.
many people like it, and then the tourists just love it, and they love the complex nature of the joke itself.
Hmm.
But no, they just love it. So it's something we're going to stick with for now.
Okay. All
Good.
right.
You're
I
not ruining
appreciate
this
that.
for me, Karen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, no, I appreciate the stance because, I Chris and I, we are just children at heart, and
Yeah.
we love this stuff, right? We just like
Yeah.
laughing and having a good time, and if I would get a T-shirt too. Now my wife would probably not appreciate the T-shirt. Like I had, back in the early '90s, we went to Hawaii, and I got some surf wax, beach surfing shirt that said, I can't remember what it says.
Probably said get laid.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was like blow something
Oh,
blow, and
okay.
she's just like was so embarrassed when I'd wear this thing out in public, and I'm like, "What do you mean? This is a great shirt."
I can picture
But
it now. Just Denny. No.
I don't even remember. I'll find it, Kris, for next episode. I'll find it and I'll bring it on here and show everyone whatever it was because I have it somewhere. I gotta find it, but it was definitely inappropriate. Whenever her parents would see it, they would just like blush and turn away from me because I'm wearing this whatever blow me shirt or whatever it was. Like I think it was called blow me or something like that. It was some kind of surf wax. I don't know,
That's actually our alternate website.
Yeah, getblow.com.
Get
Yeah.
blowed.
Oh, I should go check that out and screen share right now, right?
Yeah. You should just buy
Oh,
the you should just buy the URL actually. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
oh,
We're
that's
gonna claim
great.
that copyright.
Oh, all right. So over the past 25 years of being in business, what I mean, and Jeremy, you kind of already hinted at it, but let's go in a little bit more details on some of the challenges that you guys had to overcome, and how did you overcome the challenges? And maybe, I mean, you mentioned early on uh, that the previous owner had was looking for a way to get out of owning it and get a better brewer in to brew better beer. COVID came along, downturn in craft beer for a little bit in the early 2000s. So what were these challenges and how did Tractor Brewing overcome these and still be so successful they are today?
Okay, so I'm just gonna hit it with one thing, and it's the
Okay.
main thing, because otherwise I would be talking to you about this for an hour and a half
Okay.
and talk about culture and branding and yeah. So I'm just going to hit on one thing. So you have to drive your own traffic here in
Okay.
Albuquerque a lot of the
Okay.
time. I mean, we get some foot traffic at Nob Hill, and that helps pay the bills, but you still got to drive people in. And good beer is not good enough.
Hmm.
Great beer is no, still not good enough. You have to bring people in. So one of the ways we do that is with events. And
Okay.
we've been very innovative with our events. We like to try anything under the sun, something new like doing a goth night, which has been very successful, doing a adult book fair night, um, hosting like regular things like karaoke,
Hmm.
just live music. But even that's not good enough. So we've been very innovative with our live events, especially at our Wells Park location where you don't have any foot traffic. You have to drive the
Man.
traffic,
Okay.
and a lot of other breweries have failed in that area. So that's one thing that we have gotten really good at. And yeah, if I'll try something, give it couple months, 6 months, and then I'll try something else. I know I'm doing good if another brewery imitates the
Oh
event
yeah.
I've come up with.
Ah.
So,
Okay.
that is something we take a lot of pride on. Also, our work in the community is
Mm.
something we take a lot of pride in. One of the things I talk about is culture, and for us, that's providing a safe space for everyone, and I mean
Mm.
everyone. So we zero tolerance when it comes to any hate whatsoever in our tap rooms. We don't put up with that, and people seek us out because they just want a space to be themselves and feel safe. So those are some priorities that have put us above other people in this market that, like I said, is small but competitive.
Okay. No, excellent answer. Could you uh, just to expound a little bit um, of the different types you brought into the brewery? What's your most successful event type that you
I
brought
would
in?
say our most successful event is Goth Night is one of them,
Really?
actually, surprisingly. And
There's a big goth community in
I was
yes,
just
there
thinking
Tampa
is.
that.
City?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And it's weird. I know it's weird at Tractor Brewing, but along those lines, we have our 90s country covers night, which is huge.
Oh,
We do a gin and jazz night. Jazz is good. But
okay.
those are ones that like the country covers and then also belly dancing we have once a month. So these
Oh,
are
I'd come for
events that
belly
we have.
dancing.
Yeah, we've been having the Hops and Dreams belly dancing event. We've had it for going on as long as I've been there, 10 years. So we host a large variety of events and attract a very eclectic clientele, and that's
Okay.
purposeful. So you have to be multifaceted and not just cater to one type of audience.
Okay. Ah,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, that was one of our questions we were going to ask you is how important is community to your brewery? It sounds like community is very important to the success of Tractor Brewing. So
Yeah,
that's great.
extremely important. We do a lot of work in the community, and we have a Year for a Better Berkey program where we take on four nonprofits for the year,
Mm,
and we focus our efforts towards them. And that's actually one of the my favorite parts of this
hmm.
job is working in that nonprofit sector
Yeah.
and helping these, nonprofits get the word out and make them some money too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Kris. Do you want to go into the brewing section there, Kris?
Yes. The summarized
I'm gonna have
version,
to
though.
I'm gonna have to get my charger real quick, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. No problem.
Well, I mean, we can touch on a couple of little things in here. Then,
Yeah, Kris. Yeah, go for it.
all right.
I'm giving it to you.
Go ahead.
I'm
Oh
handing the reins
man,
over.
no pressure. No pressure or anything. All right, TJ. Well, I know you mentioned earlier when you got your home brewing kit. I feel like that's that's the linchpin for just about everybody we chat
The Mr. Beer
with.
kit,
Yeah, the Mr. Beer
the
kit
little ball. Is that what you
or
had?
I had actually, so it's really funny. My very first beer kit was a Mr. Beer kit,
Yeah.
and I was 19 when I bought it. In the state of New Mexico, you still have to be 21 to buy a actual home brew kit. But luckily, one of my friends was the cashier at this Hastings. So when I walked in to buy it when I was
Hastings.
19, he's like, you have to be 21 to buy this, right? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't. He's like, whatever. I'm not checking your ID. It's yours. So
yeah.
I was actually making Mr. Beer kits at 19. So
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hastings, which is no longer. Is Hastings still a company in New
it
Mexico?
is it is not around anymore
Yeah,
now.
yeah, they're out of Boise. Yeah, we had Hastings here, and they all went out of business. So it's that's funny.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what made you go after that brewing career, TJ?
So like I said, I was part of Red Lobster for 10 years before I actually started a tractor. I was a restaurant manager. I was a high performing general manager for them. Actually, a Diamond Club winning general manager for them, which is a top 5% performing
Hmm.
general manager in the division. So the division typically holds like 90 restaurants. So I was a top 4 or 5 GM for that year. But when I started with them, I had one son who was a year old. By the time I left, I had 3 kids who were all school age at that point. And unfortunately, when you're a restaurant general manager, you are obligated to that restaurant. So there were times I missed football games, I missed
Hmm.
basketball games, I missed uh, performances at school. I had a district manager come into town and I missed a birthday party for one of my kids. So it was just really one of those things where I was like, hey, I make a lot of money. It's not a hard job. It's an attention to detail job, but it's not what I see myself doing for the rest of my life and continuing to work my way up the corporate ladder and, sort of continuing to miss out on those things. So, like I said, I knew I wanted to get out and then, ultimately, um, Winter Storm Goliath came through Clovis and we were without power for, I think it was a total of 54 hours and
Hmm.
sub-zero temperatures. I think we were -20. Like just it was
Wow.
terrible conditions. And the whole time I had a company that expected me to show up to work and provide for guests when my family was sitting at home with no electricity, no way to make food, no anything like that. So I was kind of already over it at that point. And then I think the next 3 weeks was just brutal as far as business because you start getting gift card redemptions. You get into Valentine's Day, which is a very busy time of year. Then you start getting into tax returns. And I just remember sitting on the couch one night, like Clovis, New Mexico is on the edge of the mountain time zone. It's 9 miles from the Texas border.
Mm,
So in the winter, it gets dark and it gets dark early. So it
hmm
was 4:30 in the afternoon. This is a town of 30,000 people. Like there's not much to do. So I just kind of cracked open a beer and I sat on the couch and my wife was, she's sitting there. She's like, "What's wrong?" I'm just like, "I don't know that I want to do this the rest of my life." She's like, typical wife question. The follow up is, "Well, what do you want to do the rest of your life?" I was like, "Well, I want to make beer. That's what I want to do. Like that's what I've wanted to do for 15 years. Just like I said, it was more the craft brewing scene hadn't really hit New Mexico yet outside of Albuquerque. And then, a couple of weeks go by and lo and behold, I'm on my computer doing work before work because when you work for Red Lobster, Orlando is the home base, which means at 8 a.m. their time when they
mm,
get into work, you
Oh,
start getting calls wanting to know about labor or comps or, any other thing that could have possibly gone wrong at your restaurant that night. So, you're getting calls at 6:30 in the morning. So I'm up already answering emails, doing all this stuff. And I just happened to log on to social media. And I don't remember whether it was Facebook or Twitter at the time, but I just happened to see a news article from, I believe it was the Albuquerque Journal, talking about how Central New Mexico Community College was opening up a brewing program.
mm.
And it had to be around 7:15 in the morning. So I think I went running into the room while my wife was still asleep. And I was just like, "Look, look," shoving my laptop into her face. And, she's just like, "What's going on?" She wears glasses. She couldn't see. So, I'm kind of explaining to her. And she was just like, "Oh, okay, well, look into it," and went back to sleep. So, of course, that dominated the rest of my day. I'm calling C&M. They're like, "We just announced this program. We don't know classes. We don't know anything,
Mm,
but it's going to start in the fall." So, kind of went home that night and we discussed what we were going to do, what I was going to have to do in order to move to Albuquerque and, you know, figuring out kids and schools and housing and moving and whether I was going to have a job with Red Lobster when I came here or I was going to have to switch companies or what I was going to have to do. So we had about 5, 6 months from when that happened. And, it actually came together pretty quick and pretty flawlessly. And I started school in August. I, met Sky, like I said, one of our co-owners, and the rest is kind of history. So
that's a
So
hell of a
Sky,
story.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So Sky was, I mean, was she teaching like business classes on the thing, or was
No,
she actually
she was teaching brewing classes.
really?
My brewing class with her was a beer styles class. So we would go, it was only a 6 or 9 week course, I don't remember, but we would go in and we would taste beer. We would go through a book
Oh,
and it would be like, "Hey, here's an American style stout, here's
hmm
an English style stout. What's the difference? This is a pale ale, this is an IPA, this is an English style pale ale, this is an ESB, this is." And so we would go in there and try all these different beers and just sort of try to develop the flavors like you were talking about earlier, it was brought up earlier where, it was brought up on a Belgian wit, taste,
hmm
see what flavor that you like or see if you can pick
hmm
out these flavors. And that's sort of what the class was. And then we did a lot of basic off flavor tasting in the class too, such
hmm
as 3MBT and see what else. Mercaptan, acetaldehyde, just 4 or 5 really basic um, off flavors so that you could taste them and do them in a panel and tasting for
Yeah.
total quality in your brewery. So it was really a beneficial class. Like I said, it was short. The one
hmm
reason she remembered me was we took the level 1 Cicerone test.
Oh.
and I scored a 97 on that, highest score by far in the class. And then
Mm.
we went to go do the actual tasting final exam, and I had a cold that day and could not taste anything.
Oh
So I think I
no.
ended up with like a 30 on the actual tasting part of the final exam. But
Oh
it's
no.
that time of year. Everyone else had a cold. I think the highest score on like the tasting part was like a 70.
Mm.
And
They don't give you a
so,
pass for that.
I think I went from an A to a C plus real quick in that class, and that
Mm.
that was the only brewing class I didn't get an A in. So, but I just kind of sent her a thank you like after class, and we kept in touch after that. And like I said, contacted her about 6 months later, wanting to know if they needed
Yeah.
anyone, and you know, the rest is history, as they say.
Nice.
Okay.
So if you were to if you had somebody looking to get into the brewery industry or the craft beer industry, how would you what kind of advice would you give folks to break into it?
I think the first thing I tell them, and this is a lot of what I tell the new hires when they start in the back, is get in this industry because you love this industry.
Yeah.
I know when I tell everyone I'm a brewer, the first thing they tell me is, "Oh, it must be a fun job sitting around drinking beer all day." And it's like,
Yeah.
if that was what I did, like that would be awesome. But it's explaining to them like it is actually work. You do, it's the same as a lawyer going to work and having to read over cases and figuring out how to manipulate a jury and do things like
Mm.
that. We're doing the same thing. It's just with grain and water and
Yeah.
hops and yeast. So it's a fun industry for a lot of 22-year-olds to get into because it's an easy access to beer. But
Yeah.
the truth is it's still a business. It's still an industry,
It's
and we
still a
still have.
job.
Yeah, I mean, we still have to be responsible around beer. We
Hmm.
talk all the time. We sample on shift, but we don't drink on shift.
Hmm.
And when we zom something to make sure it's carved and tastes right before we put it in the can, we'll all take a quick sample of it and then it goes down the drain. We
Mm.
don't leave beer sitting around back there. We have plenty of time once we get off to drink, but the biggest thing is just remember it's an industry. Remember you have to be responsible around alcohol because there is a high percentage of people who get into this industry who cannot do that. So if you want to
Yeah.
set yourself apart, being able to do those two things
Yeah,
are a
speaking of
pretty
what
clear path for
TJ's
success.
Yeah, speaking of what TJ's saying about like, you got to start at the bottom no matter what sector you're in. I mean, even I was brewer or adjacent to it, especially for marketing. And if I were to try and go in there and dive in and,
Mm.
even be like, hey, I want to market here or I want to design for you. That's kind of not how it works because jobs are so limited and so it's so competitive. So the reason why I was able to get in even as a marketing assistant is because before I even worked for Tractor, I worked with them for about 2 years putting on this one event.
Mm.
So it's something you do have to love.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's almost like the restaurant industry then too, TJ. It's like I don't care. I mean, that's actually what I went to school for was culinary arts. And man, when I got into my first restaurant job after going to culinary school, I didn't start as the head chef. I was the salad bitch. I made
Right,
desserts
right.
and
I mean,
salads, just like everybody else coming in the door.
it's really funny because I'll come across people who are in the CNM program currently, and we really try to help them out. All of our current employees back in the brewery are all CNM graduates or attended CNM at some point,
Mm.
and have some sort of certificate or degree from there in their brewing program. And I'll get a lot of people who just come into the tap room who tell me like, man, I'm going to be a head brewer in, the next 6 months. I'm like, no, you're not. I mean, I had a ton of operations knowledge, and I came in with a decade of management experience in a very tough corporate environment, and I'm really glad it took me 5 years to get to where I was because I wouldn't have understood
Hmm.
a lot of the things that allowed me to change the quality of beer or to affect the quality of beer had I not done those lower level things. So
Yeah.
if I wouldn't have been kegging, if I wouldn't have been doing transfers, if I wouldn't have been washing kegs and doing deliveries and all that other fun stuff, it all melds together. And then when you get on the brew house, you really have the opportunity to see those things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, out of all the beers that you guys brew, what do you think is your favorite one?
I'm gonna take this one. It's the Pilsner. That's what got me started here. Pilsner
there's a
15. I
shot.
like the high BV. I was a big fan of the Oscar Booze, Mama's Yellow Little Pills, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
like the
Yep.
local version of that. So it still to this day slaps.
Very nice. TJ,
Gonna
what
TJ?
say
what about you?
if I have one, I would have to. The beer that originally brought me to Tractor was our Double Plow Oatmeal Stout. At the time, it was a core beer that we kept year round. Unfortunately, it's one of those beers that just due to demand, we've kind of relegated to a winter seasonal now. If I had to go with one of our core beers that's around all year, it's probably our Farmer's Tan Red Ale.
Mm.
It's just a really malty Irish style red ale. You know, solid go-to anytime I'm in the tap room. If I walk up front and I'm like, hey, I don't know what I'm drinking today, it's just like, hey, I'm going Farmer's Tan. So, but I'm kind of a sucker for malty beers. So,
All right.
Always a good choice in my book.
Yeah, of
right.
course. All right. Well, we've kept you guys quite a while. We appreciate you guys being open with us and talking about the craft beer uh, in New Mexico and Tractor Brewing. Before we let you go, is there anything that we haven't asked you that you would like to let our listeners know about Tractor Brewing or about New Mexico beer culture?
Well, pretty much you've asked us everything, so it's a pretty as in-depth interview as it gets. But I would like to say I'm gonna be shameless here and plug our
Okay.
social media at Tractor
Good.
Brewing on Instagram, Tractor Brewing on Facebook. We have each one for each location, Wells Park and Wells Side, West Side, and then we also have our getplowed.com website as well, so you can find us on there.
No,
That's
of
exactly the
course.
question I was going to ask you.
Yeah, yeah. We always want you guys to share all your how our listeners can get to you guys. So that's
Yeah.
great.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, but I've really enjoyed chatting with you both, and I look forward to coming down and visiting New Albuquerque and getting a taste of the craft beer scene down there because it sounds like it's got a great craft beer culture, and I definitely want to come try some Tractor beers because you guys have inspired me with what you guys have talked about. I have to try the Pilsner 100%. I need to try the Milk Stout because it's a GABF gold medal winner. It's got to be a great beer. So I definitely need to try that one
Yeah.
as
Well,
well.
if you do, Denny and Kris, please let me know because I
Okay.
got the places for you to stay. The Painted Lady, which is just down the street from us, run by
Okay.
Jesse. It's a brewery itself. It's a small little brewery, and they do little tours in the Wells Park area. So it's just like I said, it's down the street. Got some great places, Airbnbs or wherever you want to stay in, recommendations for breweries as well. So if you let me know, we'll at least get you a discount on the place to stay, and then you have plenty of free beer at Tractor Brewing.
Oh, that's great.
Well, now I
I
have to
appreciate that.
go. Saving your phone number.
All right, yeah. Type that in there, Kris. We're
Yeah.
gonna make a trip. All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy and TJ. Great chatting with you, and we hope to see you on the winners board for World Beer Cup coming up this year.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you. I
thanks for
appreciate
having
that.
us, Denny. Thank you, Kris.
Thanks, guys. Take care, and we'll talk
All
to you all
right.
soon.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys.
Cheers. Yeah, thank you for having us.
All right. Bye bye. All right. Well, that was a great interview.
I'm
Um,
seriously going to save his number now, though.
yeah,
Most definitely.
because Jeremy's hooking us up with free beer tractor brewing. I can't turn that down, right?
No, I mean, we have it recording on the show and on
Yeah,
video, so he
yeah,
said it.
no. That's great. That's great. No, I need to make it back to New Mexico. I honestly, I mentioned earlier in the show, I lived there for a year as a kid, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I went through the mesas chasing horned frogs, jackrabbits.
Look at
I came
you.
across rattlesnakes that scared the crap out of me. I did a lot of camping in the area when I was there for that year. I literally drowned and was brought back to life when I was in New Mexico.
I swear, every time I
I
talk to you,
mean,
there's something new. I drowned, came back to
yeah,
life.
yeah. I came. Yeah, a 17-year-old. Okay, here's my story. A 17-year-old. His name was Jody. Yes, he's a boy
Uh-huh.
named Jody. I've
Uh-huh.
never seen a boy named Jody before, but his name was Jody, and he was 17-year old. He dove in, pulled me out of the lake, pulled me on the dock, gave me CPR, pumped the water out of my thing. I was literally, as far as I'm concerned, I was dead. I don't remember anything from the time I went under until I woke back up and water was spurting out my mouth and I came back alive basically. And the kid
Man.
was named Jody, 17-year-old guy named Jody. I'll never forget that. That's will live with me forever.
Yeah.
And it was on my mom's birthday or my mom's birthday. So if I would have died on my mom's birthday, that's even worse, right?
Well, if it wasn't for Jody, we wouldn't be doing this right now.
That's true. Thank you, Jody. If you're
Thanks,
out there
Jody.
in New Mexico
Yeah.
and you remember me, I'm the kid you saved back in 1980. All right. Well, Kris, wow, it's been 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Uh,
do tend to do that. We're actually
yeah,
really good at it.
yeah,
We get
yeah,
talking about beer and stories and journeys,
yeah,
and it just,
yeah. It's easy to get going, and I didn't even get up to go pee at all during this show, which is amazing. Um, we want to skip our new and noteworthy
uh-huh.
again.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
go and we'll cover. I have
You
five
do.
cap beers that we need
Holy
to talk about
crap.
because five cap beers next
5.
episode. So stay tuned. But before we close the show out, Kris, let's raise a glass. Is there anyone you'd like to raise a glass to tonight?
Most definitely want to raise a glass to Jeremy and TJ from Tractor Brewing Company, and
Yes.
all the folks over there. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
telling us about your craft beer journeys. And I'm over here banging my elbow on the desk. So, uh, but no, we absolutely love being able to do this, where we get to just listen to the stories, because I
Hmm.
mean, hell, you guys just found out that Denny almost drowned at 11. Um, but thank God for Jody.
Thank God for Jody. He's a
But
man. He's a boy.
all these
It's a
awesome
letter I
things.
wrote to my mom. That's why
Yeah.
I quoted that because
Okay.
I literally wrote my mom about how I almost died and a boy named Jody saved my life.
Oh, so she didn't know it happened then? Oh
No,
my
because I was
God.
at a camp.
Oh.
I was at summer camp. Lake
Oh
Comanche.
man.
No, it wasn't Lake Comanche. It was some other lake. Was it Lake Comanche? Shoot, now I can't remember.
That's okay. Just
It might have
look
been
at
Lake
go
Comanche in New
go
Mexico. I need to look that up.
go dig through Google Maps or something.
Yeah,
You'll
Lake. I
follow.
think it
You'll
was
find
Lake
it.
Comanche, but I might be wrong. But yeah, I was out at camp, and I wrote her a letter because that was like a 2 week long camp, and right in the middle of it, I literally almost died, and I wrote her a letter that I didn't die. Yeah,
But damn, that's a hell of a letter to get.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, guys, thank you again so much for hanging out with us, folks over at Tractor. Denny will definitely have all their socials and contacts and stuff on the show page and the notes, and then we'll put them up on our social medias too.
We
Um,
will.
but Denny, who would you like to raise a glass to this evening?
All right, I'll raise a glass of my last little beer to our Patreon toast
Yeah,
tonight.
got
Goes
a
to
little.
Mr. Tom Byrne. Cheers to you, Tom. Thank you for being a supporter from the very first supporter of Patreon. You're the
Oh,
man. And happy birthday to Matt Knight. Today is his birthday,
yeah. Oh,
January 20th. He's sick,
I thought
so
it was
get
tomorrow.
it's today.
Is today?
Today is tomorrow, January 20th.
Sure.
Well, maybe it is tomorrow. But hey,
Yeah.
happy birthday,
But hey,
Matt.
yeah, happy birthday, Matt. Happy birthday. And if
And
it's tomorrow, that's my daughter's birthday tomorrow too.
okay, well, tomorrow, today, It's everyone's birthday.
It's everybody's birthday. Happy birthday, everybody.
And I also, being a former serviceman, I want to raise my glass and thank all those who have served and who are currently serving in the U.S. military services, protecting our freedoms. Thank you for your service, and I hope all who are deployed will return home safely to their families very
Cheers.
soon. So cheers to that. No sponsor.
Mm-mm.
I've killed the sponsor, but tintackers.com was a great sponsor. So go out there,
Yeah.
and the Tap to Craft, all one word, is still valid because I just used it yesterday
Did you?
to purchase some tackers.
You
Yes,
go find some ways to make your walls happy?
yes,
All right.
finding ways to make my walls. Tintackers.com. They're not an official sponsor, but go use Tap to Craft, all one word. You'll still save 10% off of your
Yeah.
order. Yeah, but they're not a sponsor, but go use it anyway.
Yeah.
And and you can find the links to Tractor Brewing on our show notes on
Mm-hmm.
taptocraft.com. You know what? I've drank too much today. I pre-funked before we started the show, and I've drank a couple
I
good
love that you
beers.
call it pre-funkin'.
Yeah, I pre-funked. Had some Shield Maiden black IPAs, a few of them
Ah.
at Mad Swede. I was shocked the beer was still on tap. I love that beer.
Mm.
But it is last call. It is time to bring this show to a close. We want to thank you for downloading and listening. We ask you to please tell a friend and, of course, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And as a reminder, we release a new show every 2 weeks. Now go out there and spread the good word of craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.